The wind that moves through the valley of Oakhaven today does not carry the scent of wood smoke or the distant laughter of children. It carries only the heavy, suffocating weight of absolute silence. We are conditioned to believe that catastrophes are loud events, marked by sirens, screams, and the shattering of glass. But Oakhaven has taught us that the truest horrors arrive without a sound. On the morning of January 15, 2026, a delivery driver named Thomas Miller rolled his truck onto Main Street, expecting the usual bustle of the Tuesday commute, only to be met with a stillness so profound it felt like the air pressure had dropped. He honked his horn, the sound echoing flatly against the brick facades of the storefronts, but no one looked out from the windows, and no dogs barked in response to the intrusion. What Thomas found, and what the world would soon obsess over, was not a scene of destruction or chaos, but a chillingly perfect tableau of interrupted life preserved in amber. Oakhaven was not a ghost town in the traditional sense of decay and rot. It was a ghost town created in the span of a single heartbeat, a place where the population had been subtracted from the equation. The first police units to breach the town limits reported a sensation of intense vertigo, a feeling that the geography of the place was slightly wrong, as if the angles of the streets didn't quite match the maps. They moved from house to house, weapons drawn, expecting to find a hostage situation or the aftermath of a biological attack. But what they found was far more unsettling than violence. In the kitchen of the Henderson family, a pot of pasta was sitting on a cold burner. The water boiled away to nothing, leaving only the dried starch as a testament to a meal that was never served. In the living room next door, a television was left running, playing a loop of morning news from January 14th to an audience of empty armchairs and dust motes dancing in the light. It was as if the rapture had occurred, but it had been indiscriminate, taking the saints and the sinners, the pets and the pests, leaving only the inanimate shell of a civilization behind. The local newspaper, the Oakhaven Gazette, sat in stacks on the sidewalk, the headline dating the disappearance to the evening of January 14, 2026, a date that now marks the boundary between history and mystery. Forensic teams descended on the town within 48 hours, dusting for fingerprints, swabbing for toxins, and scanning for radiation. Desperate for a physical cause for the event, they found fingerprints everywhere, on doorknobs, on car steering wheels, on half-empty glasses of milk, proving that people had been there, alive and active, right up until the moment they weren't. There were no signs of struggle in any of the 300 homes, no overturned chairs, no broken windows, and no luggage missing from the closets to suggest a planned evacuation. If the residents of Oakhaven had fled, they had done so instantly, without taking their keys, their wallets, their phones, or even the shoes on their feet. The cars were the most haunting piece of evidence, parked neatly in driveways and garages, with not a single vehicle missing from the DMV records of the town's registered owners. Theories began to proliferate immediately on the internet, ranging from a government black ops experiment to a mass hallucinogenic gas leak. But the physical evidence contradicted every logical explanation. A gas leak or a toxin would have left bodies slumped over in their homes or collapsed in the streets, but there were no bodies, not even the corpse of a stray cat. The lack of biological remains suggested that the disappearance wasn't a death event, it was a displacement event, a mass relocation to a destination that left no trail. Investigators turned to the digital footprint of the town, hoping to find a clue in the cloud, but they hit a wall of static that baffled the NSA's best cryptographers. At exactly 6:14 p.m. on January 14th, every cell phone, computer, and smart device in Oakhaven ceased to transmit data simultaneously, creating a digital void that matched the physical one. There were no distress calls, no frantic goodbye texts, and no photos uploaded to social media capturing a phenomenon in the sky. The feed simply cut to black. This synchronized shutdown ruled out the idea of a slow-moving disaster. Whatever happened to Oakhaven struck every single resident at the exact same second. As the weeks turned into months, the town remained under military quarantine, a restricted zone where scientists in hazmat suits poked and prodded at the fabric of the empty reality. They began to notice anomalies that defied the laws of botany and physics, subtle wrongnesses that suggested the town was no longer fully anchored in our world. In the study of the local librarian, they found a rare species of orchid, Dendrobium, blooming with vibrant purple flowers in a room that had been sealed and unheated for weeks. The flowers should have wilted and died within days without water or climate control. Yet it thrived, pulsing with a vitality that seemed almost artificial. Carbon dating of the plant tissue yielded impossible results, suggesting the flower was either brand new or thousands of years old, breaking the timeline of linear growth. This botanical impossibility was the first crack in the facade, a hint that the rules of nature in Oakhaven had been rewritten by the event that took the people. Then came the reports of the hum, a low-frequency vibration that was first noted by the initial responders and later confirmed by sensitive seismic equipment. The hum was not a sound you heard with your ears. It was a vibration you felt in the marrow of your bones, a subsonic resonance that caused nausea and disorientation. It didn't come from the ground or the sky. It seemed to emanate from the air itself, as if the atmosphere was vibrating with the tension of holding the town together. Acoustic analysis revealed that the frequency of the hum matched the resonance of the human nervous system, leading to the terrifying theory that the town was singing the biological signature of its lost people. Were the residents truly gone, or had they been converted into a different state of matter? A waveform trapped in the architecture of their own homes. Psychics and mediums were brought in covertly, and they all fled the site within hours, claiming that the town wasn't empty, but rather too full of something they couldn't see. They described a sensation of being watched from every window, a collective gaze of 3,000 souls staring out from the drywall and the floorboards. The psychological toll on the investigators was severe, with many reporting vivid nightmares of drowning in a sea of gray static or being erased from their own family photographs. One researcher, Dr. Eris Thorne, wrote in his field journal that Oakhaven felt like a glitch in the simulation, a corrupted file that the universe had attempted to delete, but failed to wipe completely. He noted that the shadows in Oakhaven didn't always align with the sun, stretching in impossible directions as if multiple light sources were competing for dominance. The silence of the town was also an anomaly. Nature should have reclaimed the space, with birds nesting in the gutters and deer grazing on the lawns, but animals refused to enter the town limits. Birds would divert their flight paths to avoid the airspace, and tracking dogs would whimper and dig their heels in at the boundary line. It was as if the animal kingdom sensed a predator that human eyes were too evolved or too blind to perceive, a danger that wasn't physical but existential. Let's return to the house on Elm Street, where the most disturbing piece of domestic evidence was found. A game of Monopoly left mid-play on the coffee table. The dice had been thrown and were resting on a pair of snake eyes, but the piece that had thrown them was hovering on the edge of the board, not on a square. It was a snapshot of a microsecond. A frozen moment of leisure, interrupted by an event so sudden that the players didn't even have time to knock the board over. We must ask ourselves what kind of force can pluck a family from their living room without disturbing the paper money stacked on the table. The leading theory among fringe scientists is the dimensional slip, the idea that Oakhaven momentarily overlapped with another plane of existence. Imagine two sheets of paper sliding against each other. For a brief moment, the ink from one page rubs off onto the other, and then they separate again. Oakhaven was the ink, and the people were the smudge left behind on the other side, trapped in a parallel dimension that mirrors our own, but lacks the ability to interact. If this is true, then the residents of Oakhaven might still be there, walking the streets of a shadow town, screaming for help that we cannot hear. They might be sitting in their homes, watching us walk through their living rooms like ghosts, wondering why we are ignoring them. The tragedy of Oakhaven is not just the loss of life, but the ambiguity of the loss. Without bodies to bury, there is no closure, only an eternal, gnawing question mark. Relatives of the missing still drive to the barricades on the anniversary, staring past the military fences at the pristine, decaying houses, waiting for a light to flick on. But the lights never flicker, and the mail continues to pile up in the post office distribution center. Thousands of letters addressed to ghosts. Recently, a drone flyover captured footage of the town square that has reignited the fervor of the online investigation community. In the center of the park, the grass has died in a perfect geometric circle, a scorched earth pattern that was not there during the initial investigation. Inside this circle, the drone's camera malfunctioned, tearing the video feed with bands of digital artifacting that resembled human faces stretched into screams. Was this a message, a glitch, or a momentary thinning of the veil that separates us from wherever the people of Oakhaven went? The government quickly seized the footage and scrubbed it from the public servers, but not before it had been downloaded and analyzed by thousands of eyes. Skeptics argue it was a hoax or a software error. But those who study the Oakhaven event know that there are no errors here, only pieces of a puzzle we are too afraid to solve. We often think of abandonment as a slow process, a gradual retreat of humanity due to economics or war, leaving behind ruins that tell a story of decline. Oakhaven is the opposite. It is a monument to the suddenness of the end, a reminder that stability is an illusion that can be shattered in a nanosecond. The tea in the cups has long since evaporated, leaving brown rings on the porcelain, and the clothes in the closets are gathering dust, waiting for bodies that will never wear them. But the atmosphere of the town remains charged, holding a kinetic energy that suggests the story is not over, merely paused on a cliffhanger. Some urban explorers who have illegally bypassed the perimeter claim that if you stand perfectly still in the center of town, you can hear the faint sound of a school bell ringing. They claim that the air smells of ozone and burnt sugar, the olfactory signature of high-energy ionization, suggesting the portal is still active. Is Oakhaven a warning? Is it a test run for a phenomenon that could happen to a city like London, Tokyo, or New York? If a force exists that can edit a population out of reality without breaking a window, then we are all living on borrowed time, unaware of the eraser hovering above our heads. The investigation has officially gone cold, the file stamped with unexplained and shoved into a deep archive, but the town still stands. It sits there in the valley, a perfectly preserved museum of the year 2026. Rotting slowly from the inside out, guarded by silence. The orchid in the library continues to bloom, feeding on an energy source that shouldn't exist, a vibrant purple sentinel in a gray world. And perhaps, just perhaps, the people of Oakhaven are not gone at all. Perhaps they are simply waiting for us to catch up to them. Maybe they didn't disappear. Maybe we are the ones who were left behind, stranded in a reality that is slowly unraveling. The next time you walk into a room and forget why you are there, or hear a hum that you can't identify, think of Oakhaven. Think of the dinner plates cooling on the table and the unmade beds, and wonder how thin the walls of your own reality truly are. Because in Oakhaven, the walls didn't break, they just ceased to matter, and the people walked right through them into the unknown. The mystery is not where they went, but why they were taken, and if the entity that took them is satisfied with just one town. As we look at the footage of the empty streets, we are looking into a mirror that shows us our own fragility, our own temporary status on this planet. The silence of Oakhaven is loud, and it is speaking to us, telling us that existence is a privilege, not a guarantee. We leave the town as we found it, empty, eerie, and inexplicable, a scar on the map that refuses to heal. The wind continues to blow, the dust continues to settle, and the secrets of January 14th remain locked in the air, vibrating just out of reach, until the day the hum returns, or the orchid dies. Oakhaven will remain the world's quietest, most terrifying riddle. Good night, and ensure you know exactly where your loved ones are, because in Oakhaven, they were there 1 second, and then, they were nowhere.